Hello, my name is Trisha Hitchings, and I'll be presenting our final presentation on behalf of myself and my teammate, Michaela Stebbins. Our dataset came from WECA and consists of student academic performance from an Indian university. We'd like to take perspective of an American university expanding into India. The questions we'd like to address are 1. For students applying from high school, what criteria drives high GPA and academic performance that we should consider for undergraduate admissions guidelines? The second question we'd like to address is for students currently enrolled in the college, what criteria drives high GPA and academic performance that we should consider for entrance into an elite program of students at the university? We use SAS Enterprise Miner to analyze this data, and we focus mostly on decision tree algorithms, as you can see here. We have 4 different models because as we ran each model, they would give us a very specific outcome that we then want to delve into deeper to understand why that outcome was happening or what was causing that outcome. So the first model that we ran, we didn't really restrict any variables. We were just interested in what was causing a student to perform very well in college. So we had this as our target, the end semester percentages, which is how the student performed at the end of the semester, and we removed the internal assessment percentage, which is a continuous evaluation on the student, because we're mostly interested in how they performed at the end of a semester. So if we look at the decision tree, we can see that we're interested in very good or best on the end semester percentage. So the first layer, what mostly determined if a student did very good or best was if they had a very good or best score on Class X percentage. And Class X percentage is a high school exit exam similar to the SAT or ACTs in the United States. So based on the very good or the best on the Class X percentage exam, we wanted to see what was causing a student to do very good or best on that, since the other decision tree didn't go into what was causing that. So in the second model, we removed out anything that was related to a student performing in college, and we only wanted to keep things that would mold a student in high school. So that would be, we would remove back review papers, which is indicating if a student had any paperwork that they were behind on or any papers they hadn't turned in yet. We removed the Class XII percentage, end semester percentages, because that was related to college, and internal assessment percentage, again, related to college and their performance over time. We targeted the Class X percentage, which is the high school exit exam, because we want to see what's causing students to do well in that exam. So if we open this decision, we can see that the students on the class that perform very good or best on the Class X percentage in the sample is about 35% in the sample. And if we look at for class attendance with good, they very good and best did better than the average or percentage-wise of that sample. But if we go even further, we can see that if a student had a good class attendance and their father had a degree, that sample of students had about a 94% percentage of very good or best on Class X percentage test. So that sample performed a lot better, very good or best test results than the total sample did. So we're seeing that having good class attendance and a father with a degree is driving better results on the high school exam. So after looking at the high school information, we were interested in what was causing students that were currently at the college to perform well on their end semester percentages. So we went back to having a target of end semester percentages, and we removed any information that was a high school related testing, and then we also removed the type of school. We weren't interested if it was government or private school, or if they lived in a town or a village. So if we look at the results from this test, we can see that the internal assessment percentages, which is the continuous testing on a student to see their progress, So if they received a best score on the internal assessment, this had 100% of students receiving a very good or best on their end semester percentages. So then we were interested in, okay, so now that we know if you get a best on the internal assessment, you're going to do well in your end semester percentages. So we wanted to see what was causing the internal assessment percentage to be a best. So this was the target, and then we had still drop these two, the type of school or lived in town or village, and we still have these drop with the addition of the end semester percentages, since we know that internal assessment was driving end semester percentages. And if we look at those results, we can see that study hours was driving a student doing well on the internal assessment. So in total, we're looking at just best this time. In total, there was 6% in the sample that received a best on the internal assessment percentages. So if we look at the study hours, on just looking at just good study hours, those students received 22% of the best results in that sample size. And then if we also look at study hours being good, and then follow qualifications being a degree, this led to 62.5% of this sample receiving a best score on the internal assessment percentages, which means that if the student had good study hours and the father had a degree, that 62.5% of those students would receive a best internal assessment, which would then lead to 100% of those students receiving a very good or a best score on the end semester percentages. To conclude, we'd like to go over recommendations for the university. For students applying from high school to the university, the undergraduate admissions should look at Class X percentage being best or very good, which is driven by good class attendance and the father having a degree. For students currently enrolled at the college looking for entrance into the elite program, the university should look at students that have an internal assessment percentage as best, which is driven by good study hours from the student and their father having a degree.